Hey there, and welcome back to Puppet Theater, where we're here to pretty much cover the entirety of extras along with Custom Shift. First off, I want to say thank you for 4,000 subscribers. That's pretty insane. Now, I want to first cover Custom Shift before moving on to pretty much everything else. Honestly, that last video, I did not think... When I finished recording and I saw, I didn't even realize because I was looking at the time regularly. But when I saw that the recorded video was around 3.5 hours, I was like, huh? Like, I normally don't even record for that long. That's the first time I ever recorded anything for even over 3 hours. Like, over 2 hours sometimes happens for, like, regular horror game playthroughs, but with, like, FNAF fan games, that rarely happens. Because, obviously, you know, I tend to progress a lot quicker, or at least stop the video a lot sooner if I'm having trouble. But 3.5 hours, there was just so much story packed into that. It was really good. But now we have Custom Shift. So, curious to see how that's gonna go, honestly. Especially because I was having a lot of trouble with the very last shift. Just because I was having trouble recognize. I was trying to confuse the characters' different frequencies and sound cues and whatnot. I was confusing characters basically, and now I have a better, now like it's more ingrained into my head kind of. So, now let's see here. I kind of want to see what max mode looks like here. So, this is pretty much max mode. We have, wait, what? Wait, what do you mean 21? Wait. What? That's insane. 21 tasks? Oh, I don't even, a minute per. Do you understand what this okay, I know I'm not beating this. This is a war of attrition right here. You would have to, this is a night that takes 20 minutes minimum, right? Or like obviously, well, yeah, technically maximum is like maybe 27 minutes, I would say. Not even, actually, it's more around. Actually, I would say maximum time based off a time of minute 15. Your maximum time in this night is 25 minutes. But this requires perfection. I truly do not think I can do this now. I don't think I can even, like... We'll just see. We'll just see. Okay, well, that just... Wow, that completely shattered it. What the hell is that? That is... Oh, that is truly... What the hell? The fact you have tasks that are literally duplicate. That's how crazy it gets. Oh, no way. No way. I'm just like trying to look around, get an idea of when that guy appears, but I already don't like the sound of this. 3 and 2. Billy's the knocking guy. Okay, let's see if I can find a knock. I don't know where he is, and I'm already bloody. Oh my god. This is already such a horrible start. Can I like back out already, please? He's on 8, so... Oh, he already took a box. Of course he did. Oh, what? I didn't scare... Oh my god. I already lost. Two so far. Oh, I already lost. This. Oh my god. Like I said, you need perfection. Like, you cannot, like, waste time like I did there. 21? Are you insane? That's insane. God damn it. Of course, it's this version that just does this nonsense. It's one task. Okay, let's do... Again, let's do all the record ones. Already? Oh my god, that's gonna be my downfall. What the hell? Where is this guy? I don't think that he's not here. Okay, let's look for Xander. Oh, whoops, I meant 4. We only got through a 7th of the bloody tasks. Okay, what's the next record one? Billy. Oh, he's somewhere. He's in my vents. The battery's also another issue. I don't think I'm gonna get through the battery. How? I just looked away. Oh boy. Yeah, like, where is he? Oh, did he already take all the boxes? When? He wasn't... Where was he? Oh, I'm done. I lost this fight. It's over. You basically have like a countdown now to try and get to everything. Just look at this nonsense. 11 and 8. Oh, damn it. Nope, wrong time. It's over. It's over. I'm not gonna beat it. Yeah, that's not happening. I only got through, what, 5 tasks at most? I mean, you'd have to be super quick with these, first off. And you also have to keep in mind, you only have 3 boxes with him. You have a limited flashlight battery. They already beat me already. They already got me already. 21 tasks is insane. That is true max mode, alright. With all of that is insane. If anyone can beat that, you know, props to you, because good lord. The extras. Starting off with characters. Robert Lane, the protagonist of Puppet Theater. During the events of the game, 19-year-old Robert Lane embarks on a mission to solve the mysteries surrounding Red Rose and to prove the innocence of his longtime family friend, Derek Aberoff. Next, we have Marcus Griffiths, the protagonist of Puppet Theater. Marcus is a private investigator working under Derek Aberoff to solve the mystery of the disappearances. Along the way, however, he becomes embroiled in a far greater mystery involving a certain vigilante, his brother, seemingly. Next, we have Daryl Lane. Well, good to know he was never James in the first place, obviously. Robert's father, Daryl Lane, is a recurring side character at parts of the story. He's a worker at Red Row Company and often discusses important topics relating to Robert's work with him. Next, we have the Redro dolls. These dolls of the titular Redro character can be found everywhere. Each unit is built with a radio right in their chests, allowing you to communicate across radio channels. Be careful, because you never know who's listening. So I wonder if this is actually what we were using to listen in on all the rooms, right? Did they just have one of these in every room or something? Next, we have Sheriff Redro, the lead mascot at Redro's Puppet Theater. Though he's hardly seen in the events of the game, his importance to the Redro location cannot be understated. The Sheriff was created as a replacement to the original Red Robot, with Redro being an abbreviated version of that name. Then we have Miles the Mime, a secondary mascot at the Redro's location. During shows, he was often depicted as a trickster character whose efforts were typically thwarted by the Sheriff. Oftentimes, he would be voiced with a stereotypically French accent. Then we have Scarlet Scarborough, a mascot for the unfinished Quindro's Puppet Theater. In universe, she was originally planned to act as some sort of normal citizen character during shows. Though because Quindro's never opened, she never had her chance to perform. Then we have Crawler the Spider, a mascot for the unfinished Quindro's Puppet Theater once again. In universe, he was originally planned to act as a sort of antagonist, with him often scheming with Quindro. Test screenings with him revealed he was almost universally hated by audiences for his freakish design. I mean, who would have thought? Then we have Xander Rabbit, another Quindro's mascot, and was originally planned to act as a sort of normal citizen character during shows. Thematically, he's meant to be a farmer and would perform with a scythe on stage. Then we have Billy the Bunny, who was also a normal citizen and was supposed to be an Air Force pilot, donning an appropriately Billy-themed badge on his chest. Then Harley Quindro, the lead mascot for the unfinished Quindro's Puppet Theater. Quindro was the character used as a primary vessel of the Vigilante, otherwise known as Kyle Griffiths, throughout the events of the game. His goals of vengeance have corrupted him, turning him into a rabid beast with desperate plans to attack everyone he deems responsible for his death. And then the Red Robot, the first ever machine created by James and Derek, disassembled and hid away for its high maintenance costs. The Red Robot is sought out by the Vigilante, who seeks the jammer-resisting signal strength it has. During the game's finale, the robot is fully assembled and taken control of by the Vigilante, though is defeated by Robert. And then that covers all the characters behind the scenes. Oh, we actually have text for some of these. The block out for the Chapter 1 storage room whenever I'm not working on... Oh, wait, no. So now we have behind the scenes. The The blockout for the Chapter 1 storage room. Whenever I'm not working with 3D references, I tend to create these as a way of sketching the shapes I'll need for the environment. So they kind of like have this kind of layout. This is for the Chapter 2 investigation room. The final version of the room stayed largely the same as this. Then we have a paper sketch for the Quindro's office featured in chapters 3 to 7. And the final version of the office ended about the same with a few notable exceptions. Why I'm saying chapter 4, this is the fourth thing. The blockout for the chapter 2 investigation room, I think this is behind us though, right? The final version of the room stayed largely the same as this. Then we have Fail, I think this is supposed to be for Scarlet. Original concept sketches for Scarlet's design from January 2023, about 3 years ago now. And then this is original concept for Xander's design, originally planned to have sights for hands, it was changed because it made no sense. Then you have concept sketches for Robert and his dad. Figuring out how to do human proportions was kind of a nightmare from in the beginning, as you can probably tell from this image. Yeah, I can kind of get that, I think. Concept sketches for the left and right sides of the electrical room during the boss fight. Then you had early work in progress of Robert's bedroom. This was actually made by my friend TJ, so big thanks to him. Eventually I made my own edits to the room, turning it into the vision we now have in the game. Then you have a 3D reference made for the Red Rose Puppet Theater. You have another 3D reference for one of the hallway cameras used during the Quindro's section of the game. Of course, you also have a sketch of the show. I think this is in front of the showroom, or actually no, wait, sketch made for an environment showing the opening cutscene. Then you have storyboards for the first cutscene. A lot of poses and moments from this were directly translated into the game. This is also for the first cutscene of Chapter 2, not as identical to the final version. Then you have a concept sketch. Then you have a concept sketch for Quindro. When this was first sketched, I hadn't fully settled on what was most of the details relating to his design. Kind of looks a bit like the actual like puppet, like face-wise. But yeah, you can definitely tell, especially that smile. It's like Joker-like smile almost. Just full grin, if anything. And then finally, the concept sketches for the design of Red Robot. There were so many sketches of this guy that I couldn't include them all, even if I wanted to. So next we go on to scrapped content. This is from the 2.5 version of the game, or I guess like, when it was like in development from 2025. My original attempt at making a Quindro design, this one very directly based on the sketch shown behind the scenes section. I thought it was okay, but there was something off with the way the face looked, which is what prompted me to further work on the design and create Quindro's current look. The body, meanwhile, is taken from an older character who was previously in the game but replaced by Quindro. Then you have V2 from 2024. This design is the previous version of Quindro, though I'd consider him an entirely different character. Yeah, it kind of looks pretty much like an alligator design here. I wanted Quindro to have the most striking, unique design of the regular cast, the characters to emphasize his importance, so this version of the character didn't make the cut. Which makes sense, especially considering you have, well, for one, like, you can kind of see like some similar facial structures here. And not even just that, but also Crawler has a very similar like snout-like face. So you could definitely see why it would just stand out too much, or it wouldn't stand out as much as something like this. Also, then here we have V1, V2. Even older versions of the previous design, the shape is largely the same, though the colors are a lot less blended in, and there isn't nearly as much gradient work in this version. Yeah, you can see the bow was changed. You can see some differences there, and I see what he means. Like, the color doesn't blend in as much, it's a lot more like solid color, if anything. Then we have this character, an older version of Robert Lane that technically was created toward the tail end of V1's existence in summer 2023. I wasn't sure how to make human designs at the time, which is why it looks awkward. For some reason, he has no ears. Then we have an older version of Robert's dad. If anything, even just look at how they were designed here. They have a lot more, like, you can see their faces aren't nearly as blocky compared to these versions here. Apparently, Robert's dad was originally not even going to be Robert's dad, I guess. Daryl Lane was going to just be a random older worker at the company who both offered good advice and lightened the mood when necessary, which is pretty much the same, but it seems like they pretty much made him more of a like traditional mentor figure in the form of Robert's father in that case. Then we have more scrap content from the very early versions of the game, back with the blocky faces. Early version of the first cutscene. It's actually quite consistent with how the final version turned out overall. Then we have this. This version of Puppet Theater that you're currently playing actually wasn't always what this game was meant to be. When development started on this game in 2023, January, I was working on an entirely different build of the game that I called the V1 build. While I don't think this version of the game was bad per se, it had a lot of fundamental flaws baked into its development from basically the very beginning, which is why development was restarted from scratch and V2 began. Okay, so I guess this was a game that would have came out a lot earlier if it wasn't for the restart of development. Then here we have the first ever version of the opening cutscene. To address the elephant in the room, the reason Robert's face is missing is because I used to have an aversion to depicting human faces as things I made. Huh, that is interesting. So they were used to depicting humans as silhouettes. Honestly, I'm glad they managed to at least make proper faces and whatnot. Because I mean, they ended up trying really well. So it honestly also makes it a lot. Oh God, it makes it a lot. It looks a lot more. I guess it just looks better, not just having to do with the silhouettes. Now this seems to be the old design for Redrow's Puppet Theater. I'm only showing this because I think it's really funny. Even at the time I knew this was really bad, not sure why I kept it for so long. It's still in the original version of the cutscene. Then we have the original version of what is now Chapter 1, which was in the V1 build of the game. It worked a little differently in that build though. Instead of only playing this gameplay for the duration of the first chapter, you actually play it for the first 3, dealing with different characters each time. This would have been the first quote-unquote act of the game, though the idea was scrapped because it sort of felt useless filler to have this section last for entire 3 chapters. Then we have plans for the main Quindros gameplay, which was actually largely the same between V1 and the current version, but V1 was less refined. You can even see that the map actually is different here, because you have the hallways, you have 10 and 11. Oh, okay, yeah, I can see in terms of the map, it would have been a bit more confusing here, because I mean, there's a few things. For one, it's actually very linear almost, where all the cameras are next to each other. One is next to 3, 3, 2, 3, 4. But then you have connections 1, 5, 4, 5, 4, 8, or no, 4, 6. There's a lot of entrances. Camera 4 is linked to everything. What I did like about the map is that they have the rooms there's very clear pathways where it's you have cameras 4, 6, and 8 together, 5, 7, and 9 together, and it's not something like this where you have camera 4 and you can it's a nexus room almost, where it's okay, camera 4 to camera 7, camera 4 to camera 8, camera 4 to camera 3, camera 4 to camera 5. You know what I mean? It feels so kind of messy like that, personally. But so as a result, I like the change to the what's it called, map. Also, this was called Endrow's Puppet Theater, by the way. Apparently, at one point, this wasn't even Quindros, and you can even see the old design for Quindro right there. Next, we have a bit of a scrapped concept for Red Robots, mechanic throughout the gameplay, where they would actually be behind you, and Quindro would slowly assemble them. And they had this idea for years, but thinking about it, they thought about it and they realized it was kind of dumb, but it also ruins the hype of seeing the robot actually being fully built later in the game. I would have to agree. Also, yeah, it is kind of weird because it's why would we just let the robot be there behind us? I mean, yeah, it's obviously a heavy robot and all that, but it's it feels like one of those things is it's weird. You just have this robot that's slowly being built behind you. It's a kind of a weird idea. And then here we have older designs for a lot of the characters. Jesus, their eyes. What the hell? Let me actually take a look at the characters' eyes here. Yeah, you can see, actually, most of them don't even have eyes. So I think that was definitely a good idea. Most of them don't even have eyes. Whereas here, it's just slightly too uniform. I think only Scarlet has eyes. Everyone else doesn't. It just looks oddly uniform in that sense. If you're wondering, no, I don't know why Xander looks like that. I think, isn't this Xander? Wait, no, that's Redrow. That's Crawler, Scarlet, Billy, Xander. What the hell? Wait, no, is that Xander or is that supposed to be I don't know. I don't know anymore. Next, we have a scrapped character who appeared in the V1 build of the game. His name was Milton, and he would have appeared during the Redrow's Puppet Theater part of the game if he was in the current version. Technically, this guy could still be considered canon. In my mind, he's still a mascot at Redrow's. It was just that there was never a reason for him to appear in-game. As a result, his design was never updated to the current build of the game, and he never shows up. And then we have a different red robot design. One of the things I knew I wanted to do with the Red Robot design from the very beginning was to base it off 1930s/40s era sci-fi. This design was my first attempt at doing so. It's not the worst thing ever, and I like the idea in theory, but the result looks awkward. I can definitely see that. It kind of feels a bit... Now, this actually looks like a suit rather than like a big robot, so I do like how the Red Robot turned out. And then here we have the first ever menu for the game when it was originally called Retro's Food and Fun, which is an idea that stems all the way back to 2017, but they then switched to Puppet Theater early in development, which I think makes more sense in this case, or like it stands out more, I think, than Retro's Food and Fun, especially since now the game doesn't even take place at Retro's, like for the most part. And then finally, pre-Puppet Theater, 2019 to 2022. The history of this game extends all the way back to 2017 in various forms, which means including every little idea or concept I've had over the years before this game officially started development is near impossible. To give an idea of how long it's been, here are some old designs I attempted to make for this game. The design on the left is from 2019, the design on the right is from 2022. Fun fact, the modern equivalent of both of these character design attempts is Sheriff Retro. Wow. When you compare that to... Wait, I skipped Sheriff Retro. Yeah, that's quite a shift. But overall, you can see like how the game kind of progressed from the very early versions of the game, honestly. Next we have making the Red Robot. The Red Robot is a longtime character of mine who's had different designs and appearances over the years. I knew from the beginning that he'd be this game's main threat, and I wanted to do this old character of mine justice while still maintaining his core original features. The left image is from 2017, then 2021. Definitely a bit of a change there, but it looks so monstrous, obviously, which is not at all what it looks like now. And then you have like the start of like the head, I believe. So in general, they focused on making a original head-shaped design to kind of like, again, make this character stand out more to the others. The Red Robot was a character that was very inspired by 1930s, 40s sci-fi and wanted to capture that retro-futuristic look. Which, I don't know, like seeing this head makes me think a little bit of like Iron Giant almost, when I think about it. Elements from previous designs of this character really began to show themselves while creating the body, which I think fit the sci-fi theming really well. Yeah, I don't know, I really do like the Red Robot design. Like, again, because it doesn't come off as like a mascot that, like, all the mascots just have their own kind of like identity and theme with regards to the Puppet Theater that the Red Robot just doesn't fit, which, again, makes sense considering the Red Robot was their very first creation. And then here you have, like, he just looks so bulky as well. The welding all over his body felt a natural inclusion to the design, further pushing the idea that he really is a stereotypical old robot character. The design really came together upon adding the lower half. That's when I knew I had something good on my hands. However, I wasn't quite done with it yet. After making many changes and edits, the finalized version of the robot was made. I fixed its proportions, colors, and did plenty of gradient works on the design, which gives the robot the look it has now. This is by far my favorite in the game. Yeah, I mean, look, just lighting and like just fix like touch-ups with like, as I say, colors and proportions. You could clearly tell they made the arms a lot more lankier in design, the hands a bit smaller as well. It just looks really menacing also from like when you get to tell how big it is compared to your character in the cutscenes. Creating the robot's big moment in the form of the Chapter 8 boss fight and ending cutscene was cathartic to say the least, and it felt surreal the whole way through. The idea of this game's finale has been in my mind for so many years, and finally seeing it materialize was amazing. I'm so glad that all the stupid ideas I had when I was younger were able to finally come together in an actual game. Yeah, again, I'll talk about my thoughts on the game, but really, this is a really great game, honestly. And so, what's next? The fact that Puppet Theater was ever finished honestly feels like kind of a miracle to me. It's been a long, nearly 3 years of development, but throughout the good, the bad, and endless delays, I still managed to somehow push through with this game. Of course, while this game is a huge achievement for me, I'm not quite done with game development just yet. I'm not so sure if I'll be doing any more of my own FNAF projects going forward, but I do have more plans for future games. And then here we have a sneak peek. Is it going to open like a thing? Oh damn, in-game. Never ending. The chains may be off, but the vines drag you down. My next big project I plan to work on is Never Ending, a completely original RPG that isn't a fan game of FNAF or anything else. I'm very excited to properly begin development on this, and I hope you'll stay tuned to this game's creation. If you like the story of Puppet Theater, I think you'll really like what I've got in store for this game. If you like the fall development, you have the links down there. I'll probably be keeping an eye on this as well. But that pretty much concludes all of extras. I already said I'm not doing custom shift anymore. That's not happening at all. I'll stay with my 1 star. I mean, honestly, that looks like that star right in the center. Honestly, looks so fitting as well. So my thoughts on the game, boy. There's so much to say about this game. I mean, like, as a TLDR, as I already said, like, I think this is a really great game. From the gameplay, the storytelling, I mean, just like visual design wise, again, it reflects heavily the whole puppet theme. It feels like in my mind, when I saw like how the visuals for this game was, it made me think of like one of those like little stages with like actual puppets, right? But obviously not like I guess like hand puppets is like the closest way to describe it, but it's not really hand puppets, obviously. Like I would say like more maybe just stick puppet figures, if that is what makes sense. I don't know why that's the first thing that came to mind when I saw this game, but it kind of like made me think of that almost. So I really like the visual design. From a gameplay standpoint, I mean, there's just so much to say. Obviously, this is a task-based game, right? But it isn't even one that you can really rush through. I mean, you can try, obviously, but I mean, it's like, I mean, unless you're really good at it, you have to kind of take your time with it to a sense, because obviously if you are careless, it can get kind of messy, and given the fact that you have a certain amount of time to complete a task, you don't really want to make any careless mistakes. I mean, let's just go through, for example, the chapters, right? I mean, this will probably be a better way to explain everything story-wise and gameplay-wise, but from a gameplay standpoint, obviously, the game has like there's like 3 or 4 gameplay sections for Puppet Theater, right? The first set of tasks obviously happens in Chapter 1, and, you know, this has to do with, like, repairing Sheriff Redro. And, you know, I thought that was going to be, like, the main premise of it, but then the gameplay switches up in Chapter 2 to match the task that you're doing, right? You find this room with all this, like, evidence and whatnot, and you're kind of sorting everything, and that becomes the task of the night. And that's something that I really liked, is that it wasn't just like generic tasks I would do for the entirety of the game. There are tasks that are rather specific to the story. And so in a way, it kind of like immerses you a bit more. Like, yeah, in the first game, you're doing regular maintenance. That's something you would kind of expect, you know, with other fan games that are of a task-based style, which, you know, isn't bad. I'm just saying, like, you know, that's pretty much like what you would expect. But then Chapter 2 happened, and it's like, oh, actually, your tasks now are to kind of like do sorting of paperwork and whatnot. And then that's when we move on to Quintro's Puppet Theater, where the main gameplay loop really begins, right? This is where you pretty much spend the rest of the game, right? Dealing with the animatronic characters. It's interesting because the tasks revolve the animatronics themselves as they're active, and that's a pretty unique idea. I would say it reminds me a bit of, like, for example, Juniors, where in Juniors, the main gameplay loop resolves around trying to, like, you're trying to, like, doing, like, paranormal ghost hunting with the animatronics, and so, in a way, it's like your task-based gameplay is kind of affected by the movements of the animatronics themselves, and this game kind of has a similar idea. I mean, take a look at the tasks, right? You have 4 types of tasks. One task is just, you know, very simple. Take a picture of them in 3 separate rooms. Then you have a bit of a more advanced version of that, where you have to take a picture of them in a specific room, and it has to be when they're alone. And so you have to use the different radio functions to make sure that they are alone. Then you have to do general checkup, where they visit via the hallway, and you can force that by luring them to the hallway, basically, and pushing them there. And then you have the final task, which is doing repairs through the vents. I just like that in all sense of the gameplay, it's all about controlling where the animatronics are going, in a sense, and trying to make sure that they're positioned so that you can do the tasks quickly, especially when in later chapters you have to deal with Quindro trying to basically take the red robot parts. And then, of course, Chapter 7, you know, you move on to this electrical room little mini game of sorts, right? It's not really a huge gameplay segment, you're just getting a code for a lock. And then Chapter 8, where you kind of fend off against the red robot, finally. And then you have this whole, like, different set of tasks you have to do, not even in the same office, just like a completely different night, basically. So, in terms of gameplay, it's not lacking from mechanics to variety, so everything feels novel as you're going through the game. So that pretty much covers everything from a gameplay side of things. And then story, it was quite a ride. One that I didn't think would take over 3 hours, right? I would say majority of the gameplay, or majority of the time with the game, was the cutscenes, right? The dialogue, which I don't mind. I honestly found, the dialogue pretty interesting. And it's not even just like the cutscenes themselves, because you also had like the little mini games that were like, dialogue centric, obviously, that also like added in to the story, right? The memories is what the game calls them. You have the 7 memories, and you have all the additional cutscenes. There was a lot of like story, like just like a lot of dialogue segments, a lot of like story building, trying to figure out this mystery behind the vigilante, starting all the way from when it was just Redrose to when Kyle gets introduced to the duo, becoming a trio, Quindro starting to become a thing, and then the unfortunate tragedy from reckless driving on James's part. And that would also eventually lead to Kyle's death, and that literally just like domino effect leads to everything that happens while you're investigating Redrose and Quindrose. If anything, and then you do all of this, I will say it was quite a bittersweet ending, because on one hand, yeah, you have achieved a lot on your journey, right? Working with Marcus, you got to stop Kyle, right? He no longer can use the red robot, really. And it seems like he's just gone for good now. As Marcus wrote in that letter towards the end of the game, he felt that Quindrose was now more still. There wasn't this uneasy energy, as if the spirits of the children were finally free, right? And hopefully, one would hope that Kyle is included in that, because his vengeance pretty much corrupted him to go after everyone. The only thing that was just bittersweet is that, for one, Derek, who was pretty much framed for the whole thing by James, you don't get justice for him, unfortunately, right? You don't really get the evidence needed to absolve him of anything. And it's one of those things, it's bittersweet, because like on one hand, it's not like he was ever like convicted or anything, right? Like Derek was never really, gonna be at risk of, going to prison or anything. It was all about public opinion at the end of the day. That was pretty much what we were hoping to solve for him. It was like, get rid of the public opinion that he was the one that murdered these 4 children. But as your father says at the end of the game, right, is like, would it have really made a difference? It's very difficult to really change public opinion like that, especially considering that all this started because James, someone who was considered to be a very popular figure in the city, right, someone who was well trusted, the face of the company, was the one who went out and said, yeah, Derek confided in me and he told me he did this. And so everyone just thought he must be telling the truth. Why would he be lying? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so tough to really change that afterwards unless you get a way to prove that, unless James, like, went up and said, yeah, I lied. Which also brings me to the fact, like, where is James? Like, the fact that James has never even been in here, right? We only see what James has done, but we never learn what happens to his character, right? I mean, after that radio show where he blames Derek, there's no mention of him. Obviously, we know that the puppet theaters are shutting down. Derek obviously is, managing that. But where's James? Like, and how it's so odd to me the way that Derek kind of like spoke about James at one point. I mean, very rarely talked about him in the end, but it's just like, I'm surprised that he didn't have more to say about what James did, because James betrayed him wholeheartedly, like, no shame. And it's just like, it's crazy to think that he did that, because I would have imagined, especially after the whole length that, all the lengths that James went to, like, cover up what happened, killing Kyle, right? He never, I'm surprised he didn't just blame Kyle for what happened, saying that, yeah, Kyle's the one that killed him. Like, he went missing, right? Like, Kyle also went missing, right? They never knew about the children dying until James said something. So I'm surprised that James just blamed Derek. In a way, it made me think that James wanted everything to himself. that's the part that I can't wrap my head around. Because he just betrayed Derek like that. But that part of the story is just going to have to remain unresolved, unfortunately. He got away with it, which sucks to say. But, again, we did not walk away with no victory here. We got to put the children to rest. Kyle to rest, hopefully. And we managed to walk away scot-free. Marcus got some peace from everything as well. But overall, it was quite a story. This game, when I first started it, right, the game page said that this would roll out kind of like an action movie. And I can kind of see what they were talking about here. As you go through the game, you get like these tense moments with the vigilante, especially towards the end. But it's just like this mystery that has you wondering like what's going on. The segments where you're analyzing evidence and trying to put things together, I don't know, it's just all involved in a way where it felt like I was like with the character Robert trying to like figure out, yeah, what is happening? What are the vigilantes' motivations and everything? It was just such a cool experience. But overall, that's going to cover my thoughts on Puppet Theater. Quite a pleasure for sure. I'm glad I actually managed to find out about it because, again, this game, think about it, this game was in development for 3 years. I never even heard about it until people actually started mentioning it when the game came out and everything on Game Jolt. And I'm glad I got to find out about it. So, great job to everyone that was a part of the game. Best of luck to future endeavors. And with that said, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, leave a like, comment, let me know what you enjoyed from the video and what you want to see from me. The game will be in the description below as always. And with that said, I'll see you in another video. Take care.